The Dustfall saloon roared like a living thing, thick with cigar smoke, spilled whiskey, and the restless energy of men who had nothing to lose. Laughter crashed against the walls. Boots stomped in uneven rhythm, and somewhere in the back, a piano struggled to stay alive under the weight of rough hands. Jake Calder stepped inside and paused just long enough for the noise to register. His coat was dusty from the trail, his hat pulled low, his eyes calm in a place that rewarded anything but calm. He wasn't new to towns like this. Towns like this were always testing men. He moved toward the bar, but the crowd gathered near the counter caught his attention. 20 glass bottles stood in a precise line, their green and brown necks reflecting the lantern light like watchful eyes. The people around them leaned in close, grinning, whispering, waiting for something to happen. Jake followed their gaze and found the reason. She stood behind the bottles with her arms crossed. Posture straight, expression unreadable. Her dark hair was braided neatly down her back, and her eyes held the kind of quiet strength that made even loud men hesitate. Naya, someone murmured nearby, daughter of the Apache scout, smart, proud, untouchable. A broad-shouldered ranch hand noticed Jake watching and laughed. "You looking for entertainment, stranger?" he asked, voice thick with challenge. He flicked a coin into the air and caught it again. "Simple game. You knock down all them bottles without missing. You earn the right to ask her to ride with you to the Harvest Festival." A hush spread through the saloon, as if the building itself wanted to hear Jake's answer. Eyes turned toward him, some amused, some doubtful, some eager to see him fail. Jake didn't answer right away. He looked at the bottles, measured the distance, studied the angles. Then he looked at Naya. She didn't encourage him, didn't mock him either. She just watched, as though she was trying to see through him rather than at him. He tipped his hat slightly. "Fair's fair," he said. A murmur rippled through the room. Jake stepped forward, resting his hand lightly around the grip of his revolver. The wood felt familiar, steady like an old promise. The first shot cracked through the saloon, sharp and clean. The nearest bottle exploded into glittering shards. Gasps followed. Then another shot, another bottle gone. The crowd leaned closer with every pull of the trigger, the air tightening with tension. Jake's focus narrowed. The noise, the smoke, the watching eyes, all of it faded until there was only him. The gun and the remaining bottles. Each shot was smooth, deliberate. Each bottle shattered like fragile certainty. Only a few remained when suddenly the saloon doors slammed open, hard enough to rattle the walls. A stranger stood silhouetted in the doorway. And the challenge was no longer the only thing in the room. The stranger didn't step fully into the saloon at first. He stood in the doorway as if he owned the shadow behind him. Coat dark as midnight, eyes unreadable beneath the brim of his hat. The sudden silence that followed his arrival felt heavier than the gun smoke lingering in the air. Jake kept his revolver lowered but ready, instincts humming quietly beneath his calm expression. "Gun down," the man said at last, his voice steady, almost polite, but edged with something colder than steel. A few people near the walls shifted back nervously. The ranch hand who had started the challenge opened his mouth as if to protest, then thought better of it and stayed quiet. Everyone could feel it. This wasn't just another drifter looking for attention. Jake turned his head slightly, studying the stranger without moving his feet. "I ain't done with the bottles yet," he said calmly. The man stepped forward this time, boots slow, deliberate. A badge caught the lantern light on his chest, but it wasn't one anyone recognized. Not marshal, not deputy, not army, something else entirely. That made it worse. Behind the bottles, Naya's gaze sharpened. She leaned forward a fraction, eyes fixed on the stranger instead of Jake now, as though she'd seen men like this before and never liked the outcome. "This challenge is a mistake," the man said, stopping at the edge of the crowd. "You just don't know it yet." Jake raised an eyebrow. "Funny, most folks wait till after I miss before they start offering advice." A few uneasy chuckles broke out, but they died quickly. The stranger reached into his coat and drew out a small object, then tossed it gently onto the counter. It slid across the wood and stopped near Jake's hand. Jake looked down at it, a carved token, worn smooth with age, etched with symbols he didn't fully understand. Naya's breath caught. Her expression, calm until now, tightened with recognition. "That mark," she said quietly. "That doesn't belong here." The stranger nodded once. "Name's Cole Rourke. And someone's been leaving tokens like that at places they want to burn, ranches, outposts, camps, trying to make it look like your people started it. A low murmur spread through the saloon. Fear, confusion, guilt. The kind of emotions that could turn into violence if pushed hard enough. Jake glanced back at the bottles, then at Naya. So this ain't just a game, is it? No, she said softly. It never was. For a moment, the room felt suspended between choices. Jake could holster his gun, walk away, let someone else carry this weight. He'd done his part. He'd entertained them. He owed no one anything more. Instead, he lifted the revolver again. Cole watched him closely but didn't stop him. 3 bottles remained. Jake exhaled slowly, centered himself, and fired. Glass burst apart. Another shot. Another bottle gone. The last one stood alone for a heartbeat that felt longer than it should have. Jake pulled the trigger. The final bottle shattered, and with night had settled deep over the desert, the kind of darkness that felt wide and watchful, as though the land itself were listening. The town lights of Dustfall faded behind Jake and Naya as their horses moved steadily along the narrow trail toward Red Canyon. The air was cooler now, carrying the scent of dry earth and distant sage. Somewhere far off, a coyote called, its lonely cry stretching across the open miles. Neither of them spoke for a while. The silence wasn't uncomfortable, just thoughtful. The events of the saloon still hung between them like smoke that hadn't yet cleared. Jake finally broke it. You didn't have to come with me, he said, eyes forward, voice low. Could have stayed back there. Let me chase ghosts on my own. Naya shook her head slightly. They aren't your ghosts alone, she replied. Those symbols, they carry stories. Someone is twisting those stories into weapons. Jake studied her from the corner of his eye. There was no fear in her posture, only resolve. He'd known plenty of brave men in his life, but bravery like hers was quieter, deeper, rooted in something stronger than pride. Behind them, hoofbeats echoed faintly. Jake slowed his horse just enough to listen. The rhythm was wrong for an echo. He glanced over his shoulder, eyes narrowing. In the distance, barely visible in the starlight, rode a third figure, keeping just far enough back to avoid attention. Naya noticed his shift in focus. We're not alone, are we? No, Jake said. But I got a feeling he wants to be seen. As if in answer, the rider closed the distance slightly. Cole Rourke's silhouette took shape, dark against the darker horizon. He didn't speak when he drew closer. He didn't need to. His presence alone said enough. This was bigger than either of them. They rode in uneasy formation for several minutes before the land began to change. Red Canyon rose ahead, its jagged walls cutting into the night like broken teeth. The path narrowed, forcing them closer together. Naya's voice softened but didn't lose its strength. This place has memory, she said. Every stone, every shadow. Jake rested a hand near his rifle. Then let's hope it remembers who walks honest. A sudden flicker of light danced high along the canyon ridge. Then another. Torches. Figures moved along the crest, more than a handful, watching the 3 riders below. Not hiding, waiting. Cole's voice carried forward at last, quiet and certain. That's them. Naya lifted her chin, eyes fixed on the ridge. Men wearing stolen signs, she said. Hiding behind lies. Jake adjusted his grip on the reins and felt the familiar calm settle over him again. The same calm he'd felt when the first bottle had shattered. Guess the real challenge starts now. Above them, the torches flared brighter, and the canyon filled with the promise of confrontation. 3 riders pressed forward into the narrowing path, not as strangers bound by chance, but as allies drawn together by truth, heading